morning, students. Today we'll discuss about typhoid, that is enteric fever, the most common entity in the tropical countries. Now, coming to the typhoid, this is a history. Ma, ఇది పైకి పోదా ఈ వ్యూ పైకి వెళ్ళిపోదా స్లైడ్ కొంత అడ్డం వస్తుంది స్లైడ్ చిన్న చేసుకున్నాను వాళ్ళకి కనపడుతుంటుంది కదా
వాళ్ళకి కనపడుతుంది
చాలా Good morning, everybody. This is the first. The name was proposed by. These are the history regarding the typhoid fever. Here is Charles Anderson Ruiz, and it is differentiated from the typhus fever from William Wood and Gerhard. Initially, it thought that the symptoms are everything mimicking the typhus fever. That's why the word typhoid. Later, they thought that it is totally different from the typhus fever. The bacillus was first discovered by Charles Joseph Ibert and isolated by Geffi. That's why it is also called as Ibert typhus bacilli or Ibert Geffi bacilli. And Vidal agglutination reaction in 1896 George Vidal. Initially, they thought that the symptoms are mimicking the cholera. So they thought that it is caused by Salmonella cholerae sui. Sui means pig. The symptoms are almost mimicking the enteric symptoms that occurs in the animal. Later on, they concluded that the disease is totally different and it is caused by the species Salmonella. Coming to the geographical distribution. So here, three colors are there in the world map. One is red, another is a little bit orange, another is green. Red is a strongly endemic area. The whole, you can see the whole India is endemic area. The whole India comes under endemic area and strongly endemic area, and the remaining are low endemic areas, and other countries are sporadic cases. So in coming to the India, why it is more common in India means because of our socio-economic status, because of a developing country. It is a developing country, and it is caused by, Salmonella typhi. It is a gram-negative rod, motile, peritracheate organism, non-capsulated, motile organism, non-gas forming organism. It ferments glucose, mannitol, maltose, forming gas. That means, but not Salmonella typhi. All the species of Salmonella will ferment glucose, mannitol, and maltose and forms the gas. But especially the common organism, that is what we are dealing today, Salmonella typhi, is an anaerogenic organism. Next is resistance. This Salmonella typhi is killed at 55 degrees centigrade for 1 hour or 60 degrees centigrade for 15 minutes. If it can be killed by boiling or chlorinated water or by pasteurization of the milk. But the bacilli can live up to 1 week in polluted water and up to 1 month, up to sometimes years in a ice. Coming to the structure, it has got 3 antigens. One is H antigen, another is O antigen, another is V antigen. So these antigens are useful in diagnosis of the disease and diagnosis of the carriers also. And coming to the H antigen, it is flagellar antigen that is present on the flagella, and it is a heat labile protein tested by heat, boiling, alcohol, but not by acids, that is formaldehyde. When this antigen mixes with the agglutinin, that is antibody, it forms a large, loose, fluffy clumps. That is large, loose, fluffy clumps. Fluffy means muddal, cotton, small, fluffy clumps. So this is H antigen, highly immunogenic. That means presence of this antigen when infected with Salmonella, presence of this antigen induces immunogenicity. That means production of antibody in a large in a rapid manner compared to O antigen, and it occurs in two phases. Coming to the O antigen, it is a protein, polypeptide, polysaccharide, and it is a complex which an integral part of compact cell wall, compact cell wall. And this antigen totally different from H antigen. That means it is non-immunogenic. When it is induced by infection or by immunization, it induces immunogenicity very low and very slowly. And another is virulence antigen. This virulent antigen is a surface polysaccharide antigen which covers the O antigen. That means it is over the O antigen. That is about morphology. Coming to the pathophysiology. What is meant by how it enters into the body, how it affects things. First, when you inject, the route of spread is by fecal-oral route. Common route is fecal-oral route. And the incubation period is usually is 2 weeks, maximum is 21 days. So once you ingest the organism, it enters into the small intestine. It goes to the ileum. In the ileum, it penetrates and goes into the paste patches. From there to lymphatics. From there to through the thoracic duct, into the bloodstream. Into the bloodstream, it enters into the other parts of the body. In other parts of the body means liver, spleen, lymph node, and lungs, even also brain also. So that is how it enters into the body and how it multiplies. During this travel, it seeds into the organs like liver and kidney and spleen. So coming to the clinical features. The clinical features are divided into stage 1, that is first week, stage 2, second week, stage 3, third week, stage 4, fourth week. So first, we'll go to the first week. Usually the patient will have predominantly a fever, which is a step ladder pattern, and some patient will have abdominal pain. Basically, it is a disease which affects the intestine, but the patient will have a symptom of fever. It is a misnomer. It is not. It is an entry fever means because it starts from the intestine. And the patient will have abdominal pain, myalgia, and constipation. Sometimes diarrhea. Diarrhea is more common when compared with the constipation. And relative bradycardia. You know what is meant by relative bradycardia. That is in the first week. In the end of the first week, the patient will have a special feature is rose spots may appear on the upper abdomen, especially back and trunk. And the patient will have respiratory symptoms like cough and sometimes cold also. And splenomegaly, abdominal distension with the tenderness and diarrhea. The rose spots are pink salmon colored patches, macropapillary patches seen over the back, and these spots are diagnostic of typhoid fever. And at the edges of the rose spots, we will take the punch biopsy sometimes to diagnose typhoid. It is more commonly seen in white people when compared with the black colored people. In the second week, the patient will have other symptoms, especially CNS symptoms like delirium, convulsions, coma, and sometimes rarely death. So in the third week, the febrile become toxic, anerosic, and significant weight loss will be there. And typhoid status, the typhoid state, apathy, confusion, psychosis. In the third stage, they are not written here. In the third stage, the special character is the patient will have most of the times at the end of the third week and the starting of the fourth week, the patient will have GI symptoms, especially the patient will have upper GI hemorrhage or lower GI hemorrhage or ulcer bleed, and other dead end complication is perforation. So this perforation occurs because at the entry site of the bacilli, there will be ulceration, necrosis, which leads to perforation, which is a surgical emergency. You have to treat with the help of a surgeon with the broad spectrum antibiotics and surgery. So here, the typhoid status, apathy, confusion, psychosis, that is psychological features. All the patient mimics a state where the patient has some psychological abnormality, that is called coma vigil or muttering delirium or coma vigil. That means the patient will have a pricking of the bed calls. ఇలా అన్ని పీకేస్తుంటారు. మనకి ఏమనిపిస్తుంటే వాడు ఏదో అబ్నార్మల్ బిహేవియర్ ఉంది అని అనుకుంటే దట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ మటరింగ్ డెలిజన్. కట్ పళ్ళు కురుకుతుంటాయి. ఓకే. Next, in the third week, the patient may have progressed to other neurological condition like neuritis and weakness, and the patient will have syndrome like GB syndrome also in the fourth week. This is rose spots you can see on the back. Next, right to the complications. The complications are perforation, hemorrhage, septic foci, bone infection, meningitis and cholecystitis, toxic pneumonia and myocarditis and nephritis and chronic carrier stress. So coming to the, what is this last slide complication means? These are other features of typhoid which are subsided after year of ceftriaxone, broad spectrum antibiotics. There is a number of other organs which get involved in typhoid, but that is a typhoid is a multi-system involvement disease where it infects the brain, GIT and nephritis, even glomerulonephritis. Even the patient will have hematuria, even the patient will have pyelonephritis also. And some patient may have post-infection or during the infection precipitates the HS purpura. So these are the complications. The most dangerous complications, one is the perforation, another is meningitis. These are the most dangerous complications. Once there is an infection, if you treat, the patient will disease totally cured, or the patient may land in a acute carrier or a chronic carrier. Coming to the diagnosis. Here, the diagnosis different methods, but the diagnosis commonly used is 3: antigen detection, antibody detection. So coming to the most common is blood culture. Next is commonly used is blood culture. Specimen collection based on different phases of infective fever. Duration of disease, there is one. First week and sensitivity is positivity is 90%. Second week is 75%. That is, what is the material that is used for culture is blood, feces, bile, urine, sometimes suppurative material, that is abscess, pus from the suppurative material. And in the third week, we'll go for Vidal, blood culture, fecal culture. So fecal culture routinely not done. Fecal culture is done to diagnose the carriers. Urine and fecal cultures we diagnose to diagnose carriers. So this is blood culture. The microbiological procedure is blood culture, and the bacterium occurs early in the disease. Blood cultures are positive in the first week 90%, second week 75%, third week 60%, later on 25% only. So coming to this, McConkey's agar, what they will do in a blood culture means simple. There are 5 steps. It is a little bit complex procedure when you read in the book. So it is an agglutination test. Simple. It is an agglutination test. So what they will do is, first step, collect the blood from venipuncture or 0.5 to 1 ml or 5 ml. Put in a bile bath for a time for overnight, and subculture on McConkey's agar. I am repeating, for inoculation into the bile bath for 24 hours at 37 degrees. Take that and blood subculture on McConkey's agar. After McConkey's agar inoculation, take that material, that white non-lactose fermenting colonies, and take a slide and add anti-sera, that is antibody, anti-sera, that is the third step. We will add antibodies on a slide. That's why it is called slide agglutination test. So initially we will go for culture, take that culture material to confirm the organism. We will go for slide agglutination. We will add 2 sera here. We will add 2 sera here. One is O, another is H. Already I have said, when you add a H, you will get a large, loose, fluffy clumps material. When you add O, we'll see chalky, compact clumps. So this is Wilson Blair Smith sulfide media, where we'll see the jet black colonies with a metallic shell. This is commonly used for fecal culture, and it is a definitive selective media. So another is Vidal test, another is Vidal test. Here what you will do is same, this is also one type of augmentation test. We will take the two tube augmentation test to detect O and H antibodies. See here in Vidal test, we are doing a antibody test. So we will take two tubes. One tube H agglutinin is a Dias tube. A narrow tube fluctuates at the bottom when you have antigen. And testing for O agglutinin is a Felix tube, clumpy, clumpy, granular clumps at the base. So these are the two methods. So detection of O and H antibody with antigen blood containing antigen, very simple. So antigen from the patient, anti-sera from outside, and see the clumps. You will use two bottles, two tubes. One is Dias tube, another is Felix tube. Okay, F O agglutinin Felix tube and H agglutinin Dias tube. So how to interpret it means we'll take the titers. The significant titers are O 1 by 100 and 1 by 200. So there is no definitive value, but we'll consider the rising titers as a significant value in Vidal case. So that means if you do on a first day, again repeat on fifth day or seventh day, that is after second week. In the second week, if the titers are increasing, then it is called then the test has got significance. And another important is animastic reaction. So if the patient has previously infected or vaccinated, the result again there will be a false positive results. So other methods are, these are other methods: IDL tubex, typhoid, type.m, type.rapid, and IgM dipstick. We will go for typhoid.m test, which is not available nowadays. It is only available in metropolitan. Other non-specific are, we'll go for routine investigations like blood investigations, and we'll go for PT, APTT, and we'll go for LFT to do whether there is a liver involvement, and the patient may have electrolyte imbalance also. So we have to differentiate from other disorders. We use the typhoid like paratyphoid, parentic fever, and gastroenteritis, and typhoid fever, brucellosis. These are all differential diagnosis like acute fever, infection, acute diarrhea, a viral hepatitis, lymphomas, adult stem disease, malaria. So of these, the common disorders that we have to differentiate is from malaria, typhus fever, and brucellosis, and paratyphoid. Paratyphoid is less common in India. So coming to the treatment. So activity, that is you have to give the absolute bed rest. Medical care, it is antibiotic, corticosteroids, and antibiotics. So antibiotics you will give the paracetamol, antibiotic I will tell later, and corticosteroids. What is the role of corticosteroids in typhoid? Usually you know that you should not give the corticosteroids whenever there is infection. But in Indonesia, there is a trial when the patient presented with a CNS symptoms. When you give methylprednisolone, there is a drastic improvement, but later on the study was discontinued. There is no proper evidence for that. So diet and fluid you have to maintain, and the surgical care if you suspect perforation. And coming to the antibiotics, the antibiotics are divided into two. One is chloramphenicol era and post-chloramphenicol era. So in the chloramphenicol era, they used to treat chloramphenicol, ampicillin, protranolol. But these drugs are stopped because of their side effects and resistance. Another is resistance. Later on, with the discovery of fluoroquinolones, that is ciprofloxacin, and third generation cephalosporin, ceftriaxone are the drug of choice. Along with that, you can go for macrolides. That is azithromycin when you suspect intestinal perforation or resistant organism. So fluoroquinolones and third generation cephalosporins are the drug of choice, and we can add plus or minus azithromycin. The treatment should be continued for 14 days. So if they are carriers, you have to go for 1 month. And if the source of infection is gallbladder, then you have to go for cholecystectomy. So typhoid prevention. So wash hands properly, drink boiled water, clean fruits and vegetables before cooking, and give vaccination. There are 2 vaccines that is available. The efficiency is not known. and one is oral vaccine, another is intramuscular vaccine. So coming to the diagnosis, in the diagnosis, so coming to the diagnosis, diagnose, diagnosis of typhoid is a short notes. So when you get the questions like that, you have to write how to diagnose typhoid. Means one is diagnosis of infection, diagnosis of carriers. So these are the two variables. How will you diagnose a infected person? Is blood culture. Another is Vidal test. Another is antigen detection. These are the three methods. I'm repeating. One is blood culture, and another is Vidal test, antibody test, and another is antigen detection. So coming to the first one, blood culture. So what is a blood culture? Means the shedding of the organisms or streaming into the blood is in the first week is when you compare with the first week to fourth week, it gradually decreases. So the blood culture yields good results in the first week when compared with third and fourth week. That is positivity. That slide is showing if you take a blood culture in the first week, the positivity is 90%. In the second week, it is 75%. In the third week, it is low, 60%. In the fourth week, it is 25%. What they will do in the blood culture means they will take blood culture that colonies will agglutinated on the slide. Agglutinated on the slide. So initially they will take 5 to 10 ml of blood. They will add a 4 dilution of agar, bile broth agar, that is inoculated in overnight. That subcultured on McConkey's agar, and we will see white pale colonies. You can see white pale colonies. See here. Take the colonies, add a diluted, emulsify it, keep on a slide. Fourth step, keep on a slide. To the emulsify, add antisera. That is H and O. If clumping occurs, then it is diagnostic. The diagnostic of, if you want to go for specific, go for Lazellar antisera, anti-D sera, anti-D sera. So once there is a clump, it indicates that that is Salmonella species. To go for Salmonella typhi, add anti-D sera, anti-D sera. That is blood. Next coming to the Vidal. So coming to the Vidal, what you do is to detect antibodies, O and H antibodies, tube agglutination test. There we can use two tubes here. One is Bayer's tube for H and Felix tube for O. So take a sera and add this into the tubes and see for clumps. Usually when there is H antigen, it is a large, loose, fluffy clumps are formed. With the O antigen, compact, chalky, granular. Granular means small. Granular clumps will form. The interpretation of Vidal test is rising titers are important than a constant reading. These are the other tests: ideal tube test, typhoid M test, and typhoid dot rapid test. IgM dip test. These are not used routinely. And another which is not done routinely is antigen detection. That is Staphylococcus agglutination test. What they will do is they will take Staphylococcus aureus antibody antigen, and they will add an antibody. To this precipitate, they will add a blood. So if the precipitates will occurs with a combination of antibody of Staphylococcus with antigen of Salmonella typhi, then the test is positive, which is not done routinely. And another are routine investigations, routine blood investigations. And diagnosis of carriers. Diagnosis of carriers. In the diagnosis of carriers, we'll go for culture of feces and culture of urine. How they will do culture of feces means they will do usually culture of feces rather than culture of urine or bile from duodenal aspiration. Those are urine and bile is not done routinely. Feces they will done. So culture of feces for epidemiological purpose and health programs they will do for culture of feces. That is Stevens swab technique. You might have read in microbiology. In a suspected endemic area, they will keep a swabs in a different connections in a seaways from 1 to 100 or some whatever 1 to 100 or 1 to 200. From other side again they collect the swabs and do the cultures and find out which bone is harboring the typhoid. And another is millipore technology, millipore membrane technology. They bacilli to that in the seaways the membranes and they will culture that membrane that they will culture that millipore membrane along with culture. So that is so diagnosis of carriers is by two. One is seaways technology, that is seaways swab technology. Another is millipore membrane technology. Thank you.